Hello, Creative Growth Community. Today, I have a really tough one for you. Today, we're going to talk about setting boundaries with those that you love. And that's really tough for a lot of people. Because you love them so much, you want to please them. But today, we're going to discuss setting boundaries with people you love, which will give you the opportunity for self-care, but also it will improve your well-being. So stay tuned. Hi, and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, I'm Shanita, and I teach women how to heal from their traumatic experiences, as well as to uncover and discover who they are, so that they can begin to live a life of wholeness and purpose. You know, have you ever been pulled in opposite directions by those you love? Are the expectations that they have on you is overwhelming? Do you struggle with saying no just because you love them and you want to make them happy? Well, today we're going to talk about setting boundaries with people that you love. Today I have for you 12 steps to get you started. Yes, I know that's a lot, so I want you to grab a pencil and a piece of paper and jot them down. Now, these steps don't necessarily go in order. Sometimes you're going to have to backtrack and redo a step. But here are 12 steps. And the first step you want to start with is doing a self-assessment. You know, before you communicate your boundaries, you want to take some time to recognize your own values, your needs, your beliefs, and see if your relationships line up with your values, your beliefs, and what you need. So you're going to do a self-assessment. You can call it assessment. You can call it self-reflection. But you need to start with where you're at, what your needs are. Number 2, you're going to identify specific boundaries. And what I mean by this, you may have a boundary that meets your morals of, let's say it's no gossiping. And you're hanging out with your friends and they begin to gossip, and something within you saying, that doesn't sit right with me. You may need to decide at that moment it's important for you to set up a clear boundaries with your friends. Number 3, you're going to choose the right time and the right place. Okay? Do not go set up boundaries anywhere or any place. It can get ugly. You have to choose the right time and the right place, but you also need to make sure you are in the right space internally. You want to be calm. You want to be relaxed. You want to come off not as being offended by what's going on, but stating how you feel concerning what's going on. And by using those I feel statements as well. And this leads into number 4, using I statements. You want to discuss I feel this way, or I feel this about this situation. Say, for example, you're at a family gathering and you may have a parent that just talks about you poorly. And they may do this to everyone, you may say, but you may decide, let me put a boundary up, or let me discuss how this makes me feel. And you may like, hey, you know what? I feel upset about you saying this about me. Or I feel discouraged when you say this about me. Could you please find something healthy to talk about concerning me? Could you please find a new way of saying that? So you may want to have that discussion and make sure you use I statements to express how you feel concerning a certain behavior or situation going on in your life. That leads to number 5, being assertive but respectful. Now, someone's crossing your boundary, you don't want to in turn cross their boundaries. So, you being assertive, you're using the I statement, you're discussing how you feel about the situation, and you're being respectful, which means you have to watch your tone. You have to watch those body movements because it can get ugly sometimes. You have to watch the words that you use to present your concern. So, being assertive but respectful. Number 6 is expressing your feelings appropriately. Like I discussed before, we're going to use I statements. We're not going to say, oh, you made me feel this way because you did this and you did that. No, I feel this because this is what was said or what happened. Using I feel statements, not you made me feel. Number 7, if necessary, you have to set consequences. If you're going around people and they're constantly talking about you in a negative way, they purposely gonna find something wrong with you. What are your consequences? What do you feel you need to do in that situation that's healthy for you and the other person? And I have to put that down because once before, we want to communicate respectfully, but we also want to set these boundaries respectfully, or give the consequences respectfully. So, you have to decide what the consequences is going to be, and do that before the situation arises. Once you set a boundary, set the consequence for that boundary if it's broken. But also, you have to remember, some people are going to forget. So, grace, giving grace. But how many times are you going to give grace, especially if somebody's being verbally abusive? Or especially if you say you decide to stop drinking, and you've expressed that, and others around you are just constantly buying you drinks. It's like, no, we're going to buy you a drink. We're going to get you drunk. You may decide to stop drinking, but we haven't made that decision for you. So we are going to buy you drink after drink after drink until you start drinking. See, what are going to be the consequences for that? That is some people, friends and family members, So what you have to decide ahead of time, the consequences. You have to decide, you know what? If that happens, I'm just going to get up and leave. Yes, they were my friends. Yes, I love them to pieces. But this is a boundary I set for myself, but also for them. I decided I'm not going to drink anymore. So if we're out and they're drinking, that's fine. But if they decide to buy me a drink to kind of get me to drink, that's a boundary. It's a boundary broken. So make sure you put the consequences or write them down ahead of time so you can remind yourself. Number 8, listening actively. Be open to hearing the other person's view or the other person's opinion. They may, you may put up a boundary, but that boundary may affect them negatively. Say, for instance, you're constantly paying the bills of friends or family. You're constantly paying it to the point where you're struggling paying your own bills. Listen to them. Understand that they have feelings and emotions as well. But make sure you stick to your boundaries. If you're paying someone else's bill and you're struggling paying your own bills, that's an issue, okay? If you're having party after party after party, making sure everybody is happy, everybody got all these gifts, and you're using a credit card, that's an issue. Boundaries. So you want to have active listening, because once you have to cut off somebody financially, thoughts are going to come. They're going to say things that's probably is hurtful. Trust me, been there. Active listening with boundaries. And then, especially in finance, help them create their own budget and help them to better themselves so they can make their lives better instead of depending upon you. Active listening. With active listening, I want to say one other thing. Make sure you're listening to learn and not listening to respond. So when they're talking to you, you reverberate. I think that's the word. I'm sorry. You reiterate what they're saying back to them so they know that you are listening to them. Active listening. Number 9 is negotiate and compromise. Let's go back for the example of you paying someone else's bills or paying for all the parties. You may have to negotiate and compromise for a little while until either they're getting used to it or they've provided this for themselves. Now, what I mean by negotiate and compromise, you may say, okay, I will do this for the next month, but then I'm no longer providing this. Or I will provide 50% of this and you provide 50% of this. Or I will help you out if I have extra. So you want to make sure that you negotiate and compromise if necessary. You want to reinforce positive behavior. You want to let them know that you appreciate let them know that you appreciate their efforts in keeping your boundaries. Let's go back to the example with the friends and the alcohol. You know, one of your friends may say, nope, we're not buying her a drink. We're not going to even try to force her to drink or convince her to drink or kind of lead her into drinking, because this is what she desires. And we're going to respect that. We're going to honor that. And we're going to support her. That friend, you was like, thank you. Thank you for respecting and honoring my decision. I appreciate it. Thank you. Number 11, you want to be consistent. And this is a tough one because you're going to continue to place the same boundary over and over until those that you love, they get used to it. You're going to have to give them time to get used to it. You're going to have to give them time to get used to the change. You're going to have to give them time to get used to sometimes closing their mouth and not saying the wrong thing around you. You're going to have to let them get used to it. But be consistent. Don't waver back and forth, because if you do, they will never respect your boundaries. So be consistent. And number 12, if needed, seek support. Go to therapy. Have somebody that will support you through this journey. Have somebody that will help you to maneuver through your own thoughts and your own feelings about setting boundaries with people you love. Have somebody to help you to undo all the wrong beliefs that we have, or that you have. We all have them. Wrong beliefs about how we should live in this life. Help them to help you to install the right beliefs on how you should live in this life. So seek therapy if you need it. Therapy is a good support. Non-biased, good support. Remember, setting boundaries, it is challenging. That's why I tell people do it one step at a time. One boundary at a time. That way you don't become overwhelmed and just give up. So figure out, what's your one boundary? Put it in the comments below. Let me know. What is the first step you are going to put in place for your own well-being? Remember, you're doing this so you can not only protect your own heart and your own mind, but you also will have that time that you can pour into yourself, and you will be able to pour more out to others. So set those boundaries, one step at a time, but make sure you're moving in the right direction. Until next time, keep growing, keep developing, keep evolving, and keep living out your life's purpose.